Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is Russia prepares for full-scale war. I don't know how I can scream this any louder other than just, please listen. This is really serious and it's really scary. And if we didn't have the prophecies from Leslie and a couple of other people, I think I would have to start telling people it's time to start preparing bomb shelters. I mean, this is really serious stuff, okay? Listen to what I'm about to tell you. Now, just take a second. Turn off the other things, distract you, and listen for a second. This is really important. So what I'm about to tell you, this is an overall. And the reason I can tell you this first is because I've got to give you some background before I get to this. What I'm about to tell you is that Russia has, either going to tell you or I've told you in the little part of this in the last couple of days, Russia has threatened to use the big nukes. No, not the little small ones, not the tactical nukes, the big ones. The big ones that are city killers, that are like 250 times more powerful than what Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They've also, they're actually moving them into place to use them. Okay, it's not just a joke. They have warned that they will use them. They have warned that the U.S. or NATO can't shoot them down. I mean, who would say that? Who would say? You would typically want your enemy to think that they could shoot them down, knowing that they couldn't. But who's going to say, you can't shoot my missiles down if they can't shoot the missiles down? They're telling the truth. But the West, the NATO, America's not listening. Also, they have called up 1.2 million Russians. I know the reports say 300,000, but the intelligence reports say that's not correct. They've actually called up 1.2 million Russians, and I didn't get this article in today, but I think it was Belarus has also volunteered, I think it's 100,000, it might have been 300,000 from Belarus. Stopped all military-age males from leaving Russia. You know how that's big, okay? When they are blocking the borders and they're having roving trucks roving the streets of Russia and basically arresting, constricting Russian military-age men, and some of them even beyond military age, to go out and fight. They've canceled all flights out of Russia, and the borders, especially for leaving Russia into Finland, are packed and jacked because people are trying to leave Russia. A lot of these people don't want to fight. Now, if you don't understand that's serious, I don't know what else I can say. In my 69 years, I've never seen this. I mean, maybe in my father's day, just before World War II, maybe they saw this sort of stuff, but I've not seen this. So this is real serious. So let me give you the background. January 21, 1995, Dmitry Duduman. Okay, I know we have some new listeners, and you'll probably be saying, who's Dmitry Duduman? So I'll give you the 90-second overview. He was a Romanian pastor. He smuggled Bibles into Romania and Russia for some 30 years. They couldn't catch him. So finally, they just arrested him. They put him through 5 months of torture, all kinds of things, trying to get him to tell how he got the Bibles through. They wouldn't tell, or he wouldn't tell them. So finally they came to him and said, Dmitry, come here, we want to show you something. He said, they took me into another room, and they said there was a very unusual chair. And they said, Dmitry, you see this chair? We brought this all the way from Germany just for you. You're going to tell us how you get the Bibles through, or you're going to die on that chair. He said, even if I die, I have nothing to tell you. They strapped him down on the chair, turned it on. He felt electrical shock going all through his body. He thought he was going to die. But about that time, the whole room lit up with white light. The angel Gabriel appears in the room. Now I want you to get this picture. So he's jumping around, jerking on this electric chair, being electrocuted. The whole room lights up with white light. And Gabriel is there, says, Dmitry, you're not going to die. Plead the blood of Jesus. So he starts saying, Singululu Jesus, Singululu Jesus, which were remaining for the blood of Jesus. They couldn't kill him. He woke up, they're pouring water on him and slapping him around. The next day, they put him back on the electric chair. Tried to kill him again. Couldn't kill him. Second time, same thing. Angel Gabriel, don't worry, plead the blood of Jesus. Singululu, same story. Could not kill him. Twice on the electric chair. Do you think that that's a pretty good sign that God is going to use him when they can't kill him on the electric chair twice? So finally, skipping a lot of the story, The angel came to him and said, get busy, finish carrying Bibles. You have 4 more years. And then at the end of the 4 years, they're going to kick you out of the country. You're going to America to give them a warning from God. June 22nd, 1984, 10 o'clock in the morning. He said, we'd given everything away, packed up, waiting in the front living room. Knock comes to the front door. Dmitri, what are you doing with the suitcases? Well, we knew you were coming. Ah, you crazy. Took him to the airport exactly as he was told. June 22nd, 1984, 10 o'clock in the morning, just as the airplane was backing away from the gangway. He arrived in Israel. He arrived in America. 1984. The angel came to him again. I'm skipping a lot of the story. The angel said, get beside me. I want to show you something. He said, I don't know what it was. It was like a big pillow on fire. He said, but he took and showed me California, Las Vegas, New York, and Florida. He said, do you see what I've shown you? He says, this is Sodom and Gomorrah, and one day it will burn. He said, how will it burn? America is so powerful. He said, the fall of America will start. Listen carefully. The fall of America will start with an internal revolution in America, started by the communists. Some of the people will start fighting against the government. The government will be busy with internal problems. Then from the oceans, in a surprise sneak attack, Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, Mexico, and 2 of the countries will attack and defeat America in 1 day and 1 hour. So great riches will come to naught. Now, there's more to the story, but that's just to introduce you who Dmitri Dudman is, which, by the way, you can go to prophecyclub.com and get a book that has his whole testimony, all of his dreams and visions, and it's called God's Warnings for America. prophecyclub.com. $20. Spend $20, get the book. Here very shortly, you're going to be very glad you got it. So anyway, let's go on with what I want to talk about today. So he says, about 2 a.m., I heard a loud voice saying to me, Dmitri, wake up. I have to show you something. I jumped to my feet. All of a sudden, I realized I wasn't in Romania anymore. Instead, I was in America. The voice boomed at me, look to your right. I was awake, standing up. I turned my head, and I saw a great flock of black birds. Now, a lot of people say, does God talk like this? Yes, as a matter of fact, yes, he does. God seldom talks to us the way we talk to each other. That's one of the ways you can recognize the voice of God. If somebody is given a prophecy and it sounds like your next door neighbor talking to you, it's probably not God. God talks from a higher level. And you may be saying, why didn't he just talk straight to us? Well, you remember the scripture where Jesus said, to you is given to understand the mysteries, but to them is not given. So I speak in parables. Well, he speaks this way so that those people he doesn't want to know and understand, the bad guys, won't understand. But to us that have eyes to see and ears to hear, this makes perfect sense. To people who can recognize the voice of God, the Spirit of God, this makes perfect sense. Let's go on. I was awake, standing up, turned my head, and saw a great flock of black birds with very large beaks. Out of the beaks came a large blinding light. I could barely look at. From their tails, I saw flames of fire shooting out. Now, my guess is it could be laser. There was an article that came out 10, 15 years ago that the Russians had discovered that you can send a lightning bolt down a laser beam. The lightning bolt will follow the laser beam. So it could be that. It could be that out of the back of an airplane, they just fire the laser beam and then they turn on electric, like a lightning bolt. It follows the beam down to the plane or the ship or whatever they want to blow up. Very, very accurate. And probably doesn't take very much power and not near as heavy to pull around and probably would be able to shoot down a lot more planes. But it also could be scalar wave. Now, let's go on. This flock of birds suddenly turned into airplanes that did not make any noise. Okay, how do you get a plane to fly through the air and not make any noise? Either it's a prop or it's a jet, unless the Russians have some kind of secret technology, something like anti-gravity, that we don't know about. They didn't make any noise. American airplanes would go up trying to attack, but as they would draw close, they would fall to the earth in a blaze of fire. The voice said, look higher than the black planes. Now, this is a little complicated, but this is the important part, so you got to stay with me. Look higher than the black planes. When I looked above the planes, I saw a helicopter which hovered above them. On the side of the helicopter where there was a plank, like on a ship, where soldiers were lined up, dressed in black, all armed the same. And about the same size, from the center of the helicopter, a platform began to rise higher than the helicopter itself. Okay, you got the picture. So we got the planes level, then we got the helicopter, and then there's a platform on the top of the helicopter rising up. It's showing it's showing the pecking order, who's really in charge. On the platform was a throne. The Pope was on the throne, yelling with a loud voice. The Pope? You mean the Pope is ruling over Russia and the other 10 nations, or the other 9 nations in Europe also? If you go to the very last verse in Revelation 17, it says, and that great city is that woman, and the woman is that great city that reigneth over the kingdoms of the earth. It's talking about the Catholic Church. So the Pope is in charge of most of things that are going on around the world. Matter of fact, the Pope is the richest man on the planet. No question. No one else is even close, including Elon Musk. So he says, the Pope was on the throne, yelling with a loud voice, I've been given the power to rule the earth and to fight against the Protestants, that's you and me, that I may overtake them. Okay? You remember the image causes everybody to worship the beast or be killed. Well, so does the Pope. The Pope is the second beast that rises up out of the earth. Let's go on now. As I watched him with terror and fear, because he was surrounded by a powerful force, which was formed by planes and personnel, suddenly a white cloud appeared and covered them. So I could no longer see anything, but out of the midst of the white cloud came a man, being the angel, a man dressed in shiny clothes, wearing a shiny crown on his head. And he spoke to me and said, his voice sounded like thunder, and he said, his voice sounded like thunder. When I heard his voice, I fell to the ground. He said, remember everything you've heard, everything you've seen, and everything you will hear. Tell my people. The armies and the planes you saw and the beast that sat upon the helicopter, these are the Catholic powers which will overtake the holy, that the words prophesied in Revelation may come to pass. The majority of my people, listen carefully, listen. The majority of my people will be overtaken and trampled because their lives are not clean before their Lord. Tell this message to them. Do not be quiet, for if you quiet, I will punish you. Because the churches are fraudulent, they're counterfeit, fake. They live their lives at their heart's desire. In other words, they do what they do. They do exactly what they want to do. They don't necessarily follow Jesus. They don't necessarily read their Bible or follow what it says. They just do what they want to do. And they call themselves Christians. In other words, they live like the devil, and they try to tell people that they walk with Jesus. Their hands are stained with blood, adultery, sodomy, worshiping strange and foreign gods. Because they have forsaken the true God, he's allowed them to go the way of the heart's desire. Now, tell them, cry out loud, tell them to start treading the paths of their heart's desire. You know, as I read this right now, I can tell you that there are people that are clicking away from this message. They're clicking away. I've heard enough of this. I don't want to hear it. This doesn't entertain me. I don't like hearing this. Because we live in a time when the church will not endure sound doctrine. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't have to listen to it. I don't listen to it. I don't send a check. I don't donate. I don't support it. God gave me a dream that people in his church beat his church with their checkbook because what they don't like, they don't support. They won't endure sound doctrine. Because they've forsaken the true God, he's allowed them to go as their heart's desired. Now tell them, cry aloud, tell them to stop treading the paths of their heart's desire, to repent with their hearts, that in the day of the beast's anger, I may be able to save them. That's not a pre-trib rapture. There's cases where people ran right by and couldn't see the person that they were after. God can blind the eyes of people. He can protect a lot of different ways other than just sucking them in the ear, which is not going to happen. That's a big misunderstanding. I'll cover that from time to time, but let's go on. In the day of the beast's anger, that I may be able to save them, so they will not deny me. You know what this is really saying? It's really saying, and I believe this to be true, most Christians alive on planet Earth today will take the mark, will fall away, and will get angry, especially those that have been taught and believe in a pre-trib rapture. When that pre-trib rapture doesn't suck them into the sky, they're going to get mad at God. And of course, God's going to say, I didn't say that. You just believed a lie. Let's go on. Again, he spoke. Look to your right. I saw a vast army my eyes could not encompass. By the way, he's not the only one. Bree Keaton saw a vast army like this too. This is the army I've prepared to save my people from the beast's grasp. Not a pre-trib rapture, but he's prepared to tell them, go here, go there, don't go there. I mean, there were times when Dmitri would pull up to a checkpoint, and the guide would say, Dmitri, open your trunk. He'd open the trunk. It's all full of Bibles. He said, I had taken out the passenger seat, the back seat. He said, I had so many Bibles, had them all across the top, up on the dash of the car. He said, I barely could turn the steering wheel of the car. I had so many Bibles. Dmitri, what are you doing with all these books? Where are the Bibles? We know you have Bibles. They would come to his house with all kinds of electronic equipment to see through the walls, Where are the Bibles? We know you have Bibles. Michael Boldea said, I was only like 4 or 5 at the time. And so I answered him right there. And, of course, Mom slapped his hand down. But he was telling where the Bible, his home was a Bible warehouse. He had Bibles setting every place. Under this, on top of that. You could barely walk through his house, the whole Bibles, but they couldn't see them. So the army is designed to go out and protect those people who keep their lives clean. It's not a pre-trib rapture. This is the army I've prepared to save my people from the beast's grasp. Do not forget to tell them the words that I've told you. I will give you a spirit of remembrance. Now, let's jump to the next thing, then I'll get to the point today. Dmitri Duduman had this happen. His daughter, Virginia Boldea, heard him say in the night, she says, I heard my father's voice early in the morning. I saw something I heard. I got my recorder, went to his bedside, but he wouldn't let me record it. My father said, the Lord showed me a very large bear. This would be Russia. As big as a building, that would be Russia today, began to do battle with an unarmed man. That would be NATO and America. Do you see what I've shown you? A voice said, this is how it will be when the hardships come over America. No one will be able to defend her. Only those that trust in me will be spared. Only those that trust in me will be spared. Everything will start as a heavy rain on a sunny day when you least expect it. Are you ready? Can you see the warnings? Can you understand just how close it is? Let's go on. So here's the part of what I want to get to today. HalTurnerRadioShow.com says 3 nuclear-tipped missiles have been moved into the open. In other words, they're ready to launch. They pulled them out of the hiding places. It is now confirmed by visual verification through covert intel assets today that Russia has repositioned 3 nuclear-capable Tu-160 strategic bombers to near the border of Finland. It is also now confirmed through visual verification that Russia has deployed these 3 and 3 MiG-31 aircraft, in other words, to carry them, and with hypersonic missiles with nuclear warhead tips. They have pulled their big nukes out of hiding. They pulled them out of mothballs. They've dusted them off. They've charged up the batteries, and they're ready to fire them. And in the meantime, what's happening in America? Oh, we're concerned with the hurricane. Well, hurricane's real bad, but it's not as bad as about 100 suitcases, or not suitcases, 100 nukes hitting all across the nation. This is the problem, not Hurricane Ivan. Or Ian. Hurricane's a problem. I understand. I've got family that's just survived. I understand. It's bad. But I think the hurricane is to distract the news from this. This is what the news needs to be saying. You don't hear anything about this on the news. Goes on to say, with nuclear warhead tips into the enclave of Kaliningrad, and has been visually confirmed, the only Russian nuclear warheads known to be capable with this missile are 100 kiloton and 500 kiloton warheads. And as I recall, what Hiroshima was 4 kilotons. So you want to multiply that times up? Yeah, that's a lot bigger and more powerful than anything hit Hiroshima. When a nuclear device is detonated, the dust settles on everything. You breathe it, absorb it. You cannot stop it. And when you breathe it or absorb it, it floods your thyroid with bad iodine, killing your thyroid and killing you. But there is a solution. I just went out to my freezer. This is mine. I keep it out there. I've had it for several years. And it says, this is potassium iodate. Now, it's $30 a bottle. If you order 5 bottles, you get an extra bottle free. You need 1 bottle per exposure per person, and it has the instructions on it. But anyway, I would suggest you go to prophecyclub.com, and let me just tell you, we've only got 100 bottles. Now, we've already made plans to get another 1,000 bottles in, being this is coming up. Right now, we only have 100. So my suggestion is you get over to prophecyclub.com and you get your bottles ordered real quick. You might even be a part of the 100 that we have. And if not, then another week or so after that, we will get some more bottles, get it out to you. $30 a bottle, order 5 and get a 6th one free. Here it is, potassium iodate. Is your life worth $30? I mean, you may as well have it. I mean, spend $30. Spend $30. So you get a suitcase nuke in the area, something like that. Not worried. Next headline. Covert intel, deployment of 200,000 more troops. Covert intel sources say the Belarus president, Lukashenko, has agreed to deploy 120,000 Belarus soldiers. And now, in addition to the Russian soldiers that were already deployed, and in addition to the 1.2 million that he's pulled up, not 300,000, now Belarus says they're sending 120,000. Belarus soldiers during November to February. He also undertakes to supply 100,000 mobilized Russian soldiers in addition. They're preparing for war. They're not joking. Lukashenko is preparing for a full-scale war, but not necessarily in Ukraine. Not necessarily in Ukraine. You don't need that many soldiers to whip Ukraine. They're preparing to go against NATO, i.e. America. Ukraine, likelihood these troops will go after Poland or the Baltic states of Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. Now, remember, Daniel chapter 7 says that the bear will have 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. In my opinion, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia will be the 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. So the Russian bear, once he starts rampaging, and that started February 22 of 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine, she's not going to stop until Armageddon. What stops the Russians is when they come down to attack Israel in the valley of Jezreel, and Jesus splits the skies, the heaven rolls back like a scroll, and with the breath of his nostrils, he destroys the tares. Okay, enough of that. Medvedev says nukes can be used to defend new Russian territories. Warns hypersonic missiles can hit the EU and the U.S. Dmitry Medvedev, who's he? Well, he used to be the prime minister, but now he's the deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, warned that hypersound, or hypersonic weapons, could quickly reach targets both in the U.S. and Europe. In his opinion, all residents of the NATO states should listen. I agree. NATO and America needs to be listening, but they're not listening. All residents of NATO states should listen to Russia to understand that Russia has chosen its own path. In other words, nobody's telling Russia what to do. The Russian authorities have decided to incorporate the republics of Donbass and other territories into the country. So those 4 states that just voted to become part of the Russian territory, now they're getting all of their Russian equipment, plus all of the equipment that America sent over there, plus all of the equipment from Ukraine, and they're all going to turn that against NATO and America. So what takes out part of our American troops when they invade us might be American weapons. Russia can use any weapon, including strategic ones. Now, you see that word strategic? That means the big ones. He's saying they're not using the little 1 ton, I think that 1 kiloton. They're not using the little 1 kiloton. They call those tactical nukes, and those destroy, like 10 city blocks. They're using the big ones, 500 kilotons. One of those will take out DFW. It'll level most of the whole DFW area. Let's go on. Donbass republics and other territories will be accepted into Russia. The protection of all the territories that have joined will be significantly strengthened by the Russian armed forces. Russian weapons, including strategic nuclear weapons, and, look at this, weapons based on new principles that could be used for such protection. Let me read that again. Weapons based on new principles that could be used for such protection. if we can just believe what he's saying we got technology you don't have, because God has given it to them, because as we walked away from Jesus, he took what he was going to give to us and give to them so that they could destroy us at the hand of God. Various retired idiots, talking about NATO and America, various retired idiots with general stripes do not need to frighten us talking about NATO attacking Crimea. Hypersound, or we call them hypersonic, missiles will be able to reach targets in Europe and the United States much faster. But look at this next word, guaranteed. Nobody says that unless they're telling the truth. He is guaranteeing that their missiles cannot be shot down. Now, the most important words on the page, the very bottom right corner, there's no turning back. What he's saying is, look, there's not going to be a time when you can wave the white flag and say, okay, let's stop fighting. Let's have some peace. He's saying, no, there's no turning back at this point. Some senior officials from NATO members have made remarks that it can be possible and acceptable to use weapons of mass destruction against Russia, that is, nuclear weapons. Okay, so Russia says, we're going to use nukes on you, and NATO turns around and says, yeah, we're going to use nukes on you. Those are fighting words. Our country also has various high-impact weapons, in some ways more powerful than those of NATO countries, and in the case of threat against our country's territorial integrity, we will certainly use all means at our disposal to protect Russia and our people. This is not a bluff. It took me about 20 minutes to make these two loaves in my kitchen at an ingredient cost of about $12 each. In a time of food shortage and emergency, I'm going to cut each one of these loaves into 14 slices. Eat a slice in the morning and the afternoon, I'll be satisfied. You want long-term food storage? You want to cut your food costs? Here it is. Eat 2 whole wheat bread slices daily for about a year for about $800 each. JosephKitchen.com's wheat berries come in a nitrogen-infused 7-gallon pail for long-term storage. Most other emergency food costs about $10,000 per person per year. That's right, about $10,000 per person per year. But at Joseph Kitchen, you could do it for about $1,000 per person per year. Now, to get started at JosephKitchen.com, you're going to need a machines package. That's going to give you the grinder, the bread machine, the knife slicer, all you need to make bread, and then you decide how much food you want to get. You want food 6 people 1 year, 4 people 1 year, 2 people 1 year, or just one person for a year, all at JosephKitchen.com. About $1,000 per person per year at JosephKitchen.com. Use the promo code Prophecy Club. Get you a $50 discount. JosephKitchen.com, promo code Prophecy Club for a $50 discount on your first order.